I know we don't have quorum yet, but we're going to get through the non-quorum items. I'm Amir Frokier, Chair of the City Council Transportation Committee. Welcome to the Wednesday, October 12th, 2022 meeting of the City Council Transportation Committee. Good to see a lot of folks in the audience today. We do not yet have a quorum. We need one more member to have quorum, but there are a number of items we can tackle to get the meeting moving that do not require a quorum. The first of which is introduction of the members. I recognize to my left Councilmember Wan and Councilmember Dozier, and I think we can move straight to public comment. Do we have members of the public signed up?
Yes, we currently have 3 people sign up for public comment.
Terrific.
The first is Ms. Jennifer Brooks.
Good morning, council members. I'm Jennifer Brooks. I live downtown. I just wanted to speak briefly to 22-R-4417, the $6 million to repave around City Hall. I just wanted to double check whether ADA compliance is part of that amount, and will there be sidewalk improvements, and are you looking for community feedback prior to embarking on this project if it gets approved? Thank you.
Mr. Brian Sumlin.
While we wait for Mr. Sumlin, I'll recognize Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet. Yeah, we now have a quorum.
Hello, good morning, City Council. Thank you for this morning. After the most recent engagement meetings with our entities such as ABI, MARTA, and the City of Atlanta, some residents with mixed views do see some light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to securing our transportation futures. It is indeed hard work. We must continue to stay on track and beginning to deliver our transportation projects, meaning most recently the streetcar. Neighborhoods south of I-20 in the southern corridors would like to have a piece of the light rail action once the phase 1 of the extension to the Beltline to Ponce City Market is completed. In earlier years, it was discovered that ABI and MARTA did do some beginning research in other scenarios to connect north and south together in earnest. But the most recent Irwin Street scenario was picked to advance in the process. There are a few challenges at this intersection. However, some of the Beltline communities do want it to pass with extreme caution because it's a major junction point, because you choose a transfer from different transportation modes. We hope that the 1-week closure of Irwin Streets, the 3 entities take the time to study the entire thing, because it is indeed a connection point, and brainstorm a few scenarios blossom from the communities, like how to build a bridge over Wholesale Yard, or just extend the streetcar to stop to the Beltline and not transition onto the Beltline and preserve it as a transfer point. We urge the council and the mayor's office to build a relationship with private and philanthropic entities, companies in our city to help us commit to achieving the Beltline portion of the MARTA program and really reach the goal of the nearly $2 billion price tag, and we can do it. Advocating for this have begun to prove that the MARTA program is equitable, meaning the south of the I-20 corridor, the request to be prioritized next. And then briefly about the new walk-in ordinance, the 22-R-4417. It is projects should not be placed in the front of the line since the T-SPLOS 2.0 program is about to be in motion. Thank you.
The next we have Ms. Rebecca Serna.
Good morning, council members and committee chair. I'm happy to be here this morning. My name is Rebecca Serna. I'm the executive director of Propel ATL, formerly known as the Atlanta Bicycle Coalition. And I want to thank you first for your continued commitment to safety, equity, and mobility as defined in the One Atlanta Strategic Transportation Plan. I'm here to speak to 22-R-4417 as well. We're concerned about the potential impacts of this legislation, and we ask that you hold it to give full consideration and allow more time for informed public input on the decision. One of the core strategies in Atlanta's Strategic Transportation Plan, adopted in 2019, is take every opportunity to make streets safer. The plan goes on to recommend partnering with the state, community improvement districts, CIDs, and other stakeholders to incorporate crash prevention tools into resurfacing, restriping, and roadway maintenance programs to make our roads safer by design, and to prioritize safety in restriping programs. While 60% of Atlanta's streets are in fair or worse condition, and I know this intimately from riding a bike and walking on Atlanta's streets, sometimes it feels more like a collection of potholes than a street grid. Streets with people walking, using wheelchairs, biking, and scooting, improving those streets without making any safety improvements, I believe would be a mistake. The proposed downtown street repavings would essentially skip the line. Many other bond projects developed by staff, approved by voters and city council have not yet been completed. During an update in February 2022 to this body, then Transportation Commissioner Josh Rowan reported that the overall program was just 61% complete. And when you break the projects down into categories, the Complete Streets projects are lagging even further, with just 22% of Complete Streets projects finished at that time. I believe some of these projects are stalled due to a lack of funding for resurfacing. Residents and City Council went through a pretty painful rebaselining process in 2019 that I'm sure you all recall, that resulted in half the original projects being cut or scaled back. We'd all like to avoid that happening again. In summer of this year, Atlanta City Council adopted oversight legislation intended to protect the 2022 bond and T-SPLOST project lists, which we applaud. We ask you to stand by the intent of that legislation and hold this resolution for further consideration and public input. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, that concludes public comment.
Terrific. Let's take a step back to items C and D, adoption of the agenda and approval of the minutes. Now that we have a full quorum, I will move to adopt the agenda. Could I get a second? Second by Dozier. Please open the vote on the motion to adopt the agenda.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. The agenda has been adopted.
Great. I will now move to approve the minutes. Could I get a second? Second by Juan. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. The minutes have been approved.
Now we'll move to section F, presentations, reports, updates. Today we have a presentation and report from Aviation. Is that correct? Yeah. Mr. Bayadari, welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Council Member. B.B. Adari, Aviation General Manager. Good to see you all this morning. This is Aviation third quarter, calendar year, third quarter 2022, ending September. And before I start, I would like to recognize some of my team members that are here. Deputy General Manager Senior, Mr. Michael Smith. Deputy General Manager and CFO, Mr. Brian Benefield. Deputy General Manager and Chief Commercial Officer, Jack Farrell. And our Legislative Affairs, Anita Williams. Did I miss anyone? Oh, and our Communication Director, Andy Gobiel. Thank you, team, for being here this morning to defend me or support me or stand behind me and protect me from the saber wrong that will be coming my way.
Denial of service request, Mr. Bayadari.
Is this?
You got it.
Okay, there. So I saw some of you this on Saturday morning. I just want to throw this slide up here, our 5K, $410,000 total gross revenue raise. I saw Council Member Juan, and he probably crossed the finish line before I crossed the start line because he was ready, he was eager, and he was all ready to go down there. So thank you, Council Member Juan. And others that were there that I didn't see, thank you all for showing up. Of course, our vision and mission, vision is airport efficiency and, of course, excellent or exceptional customer expectation. And our mission is very simple: to connect our communities to the world globally. And core mission, the acronym ICARE, and you can read more about that. Integrity, again, I keep repeating myself on this here. Integrity is non-negotiable in the Department of Aviation. Our strategic plan sits on 3 pillars: people, purpose, and performance. Focus on our employees, first and foremost, customer service, our customer, stakeholder in the communities, and then the purpose is what we exist for as an airport, maintaining our operating certificate and moving goods and people from their origination to destination, and then performance build to accommodate the future. So let's talk a little bit about people. As you see, in the third quarter, we had 164 attrition, but 142 of those were our summer youth program, 105, and 37 summer college interns. If you back those numbers out, we are at the net 31 in our recruitment program to fill our vacancy. So the third quarter, we have seen a sharp increase in the number of people applying for a job with the aviation department. And so it's a good story overall on this slide here. Training. We have trained approximately 729 employees, a total of 272 hours, everything from core or mandatory training to supervisors training to skill success training such as MS, Microsoft Software Suite, Six Sigma, etc. Community engagement in our strategic pillar of purpose. The 3 areas I want to highlight here is weapon restriction. I had, again, another big outreach program with a lot of folks, including our police chief, the mayor, and others. Human trafficking awareness campaign in August, wanting the public to know that it's not acceptable at the airport. We are not going to tolerate it, and if you try to do it and you come to the airport, we will fine you, and the appropriate law enforcement activity and prosecution will occur over there. And then, our community, different cultures. In September, a big Hispanic celebration. We're currently in Hispanic celebration month, September, October. Purpose, operational activity, big slide here. September passenger and cargo or forecast number, we're still waiting for the final tally in that, but we expect that we'll finish the third quarter moving 69 million passengers through the airport in the first 9 months. A big upsurge in passenger traffic for this calendar year. Cargo is on par to just a little below 2021 number, which was our highest year of cargo operations at 731 metric tons. So we're just below par in that. And if you look at the total number of employees that we badge over the first 3 quarters this year, over nearly 100,000, and other data out there in our social engagement, ground transportation. If you look at TNC and taxi, nearly 2 million pickup, these are all pickup number, TNC operation for the first 9 months, and 285,000 for taxi pickup at the airport. Let's talk a little bit about performance, our financial, starting with our financial health. We're 7% or $7 million above our forecast revenue for the first quarter of the fiscal year, July, August, September, because our revenue is reporting in fiscal year quarter. And the reason for that is for the strong revenue growth is in our areas of concession and parking, and then non-aeronautical revenue were down by approximately $6 million due to CARISA and ARPA credit that was applied in the first quarter to our non-aeronautical partners out there. Expenses, significant variance of, we are running about 33% below our budgeted number. 18 million of that is due to contract and services. Contract services that were rendered, but the invoice have not hit our books as yet. Okay, so there's a we have a service level agreement of plus 30 from the time we received and approved an invoice to pay those invoices. So we're at the end of September, those invoices are just starting to hit our books. And then $10 million in city support services, but that's an annual amount. So the variance is a little bit off, or it could lead ones astray, but really, when overall, we are just on budget for the fiscal year, for the first quarter of the fiscal year. Economic opportunities in terms of our capital program, $178 million spent this quarter. Eligible $126 million, of which 34 went towards female and minority businesses, which is about 27%. Our overall average for the year is about 33% in participation. So we're still running in the 30%. And if you look at the next slide, for the entire programs, 2015 to date, you'll see that we're running our capital program just about 34% in diversity participation for the overall program. Just want to give a status update. If you look at the center box, the center box is, or the rectangle in the center there is a representation of our domestic terminal. And everything you see in red are zones that will be affected by existing construction project that we have just started. We have really started 7 projects, or 7 projects are underway in the domestic terminal, a total of approximately $600 million. One of the reasons we are so good at what we do is the pre-planning of a project execution and the logistic plan we put in place to minimize the impact. Our focus is on the customer to minimize the impact, their facilitation from the time they arrive at the curb to the time they get to the gate. How do we minimize that impact on them? And so these projects here all are impactful projects, but minimal impact to the passenger overall, because we have a very, very robust logistic plan in place. Again, this is about $600 million of project that are ongoing in the domestic area of the airport. And real quickly, I'll run through this here, give you a quick explanation or scope of the project, cost, schedule, and the delivery method that we're using for these projects. The plane train, of course, is a progressive design build. It's a $295 million project. The switch replacement, we're replacing 13 switches, old switches of our existing plane train. We have to continue the modernization of the plane train, $70 million project. Domestic terminal parking deck renewal, we talked extensively about this just recently. You all approved this construction project to move forward, $48 million to renew and repair some of the issues that we have based on an engineering assessment of both the north and south deck that's ongoing. Domestic terminal interior and fire life safety enhancement. If you walk into the north baggage claim area, that picture is a representation of the north baggage claim area of the ceiling starting to come down. We can replace the entire ceiling and then upgrade our fire life safety system. And one project that is near and dear to my heart is the modernization to today's technology, or technology into the future, that was approved by the TSA that is currently implemented. It's the largest implementation of this technology anywhere in the nation, and that's on our South Security checkpoint, our modernization of our, now we're taking that same technology to the main checkpoint. It's in the south checkpoint, and this will give us tremendous capacity increase in the overall screening of passenger going through our checkpoint, because our footprint to expand the checkpoint is very limited. So technology is a way to help us increase that footprint. And Concourse T, Concourse D vertical circulation expansion to accommodate the passenger coming through the south checkpoint. Our constraint is escalator and elevator at the Concourse T center point, and we're expanding that. And that project is on schedule and is going well. Look ahead. What do we expect in the next 3 months? So first and foremost, our holiday plan. Big travel season for us in Thanksgiving and Christmas period. So we put together a robust operation plan to handle the growth or the increase in travel plans during this next 3 months. This past weekend was a good example for us. All our parking products were sold out, and it was very, very busy at the airport. Winter weather preparedness. We do hold an annual full-scale exercise in preparing for our winter weather operations. For the last 3 years, knock on wood, no event, and we're hoping for another no event winter season, but we have to be prepared just in case we do have an event. We're ahead of the game. Because we are not a snow belt, so our crew is really rusty when it comes to winter weather preparedness. So now we're starting up our training. We're looking at our facility, our equipment, our material resource in hand, and get ready starting in November. Emergency training this month. We'll hold a full-scale active shooter training with our law enforcement agency. So we're always honing our skill because of our increasing growth, ensuring that we're ready to handle any emergency situation. And this past week, Monday, was a good example of what occurred to us with an attempted cybersecurity attack on our system. We had our plan in place. The plan was executed, and as a result of that, there was zero disruption to our overall operations. Construction project that we're looking at for the next 3 months that will be open. We're looking at $612 million worth of projects. These 4 projects is a representation of $612 million that will be open in the next 3 months, October, November, December. Fire Station 32, T North 5 gates, 9 left end around taxiway, and South de-icing complex. And these following slides give you more details on those 4 projects, and you could take a look at it at your leisure. And so T North 5 gates in December. Fire Station 32, we're looking at to open that in November. 9 left, or South de-icing complex, November. And of course, our 9 left and around taxiway in November. And these are very impactful, very, very impactful projects that will come online. Just 9 left and around taxiway alone will save the airlines somewhere about $50 million annually in fuel costs, not to mention the significant carbon footprint reduction from having aircraft sitting at the runway, idling, waiting to cross an active runway. Upcoming procurement in the next 3 months. We have Delta Consolidated Sky Club. We have a partial approval, but the scope of that project have increased tremendously, and you will see me coming back to this body for approval on the Sky Club. Concourse D widening, additional construction money now as we're getting ready to start construction in this project. We're onboarding a management team at risk, a construction management team at risk for Concourse E modernization. Concourse E modernization is a significant project for us. Modern air cargo, we are just finished some of the enabling work, and now we will be coming for a developer to develop the building. You will see that coming to you shortly. Ramp 20 pavement replacement, and then concession phase 2 program, which we are getting ready to advertise either late this month, the end of this month, or the first week in November. And this is just a graphic representation on the airport where some of these projects could be taking place yet. And with that, I'll subject myself to any questions that you may have for us. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bayadar. I see no sabers here, but I do want to recognize Councilmember Lewis, who brings us to 5 for the meeting. One question, then I'll run down the queue. This past week, there was a cyber attack on a number of major airports and their external websites. Can you speak a little bit about the impact it had on Hartsfield-Jackson and what impact it did not have, and how y'all have responded, or how you were prepared for it in the first instance?
So it was interesting. Monday morning at around 7:45, I was in a roundtable CEO discussion in Orlando, Florida. And just a little after it, my phone rang, and I stepped outside to answer it, and I saw the director of Phoenix behind me, the director of LAX behind me, the chief operating officer of Port Authority behind me. And I looked around, and then Lance Little, my good friend from Seattle, and I looked around, and I'm wondering, what's going on with them? Why are we all walking out this room? And we're all getting the same message simultaneously. And so what happened, there was this massive attack on our server. Our server was sending, I was told, 29 million emails per second. Think about that, 29 million emails per, trying to get and penetrate our server. The team
Similar to our city council email accounts on a daily basis. I'm kidding.
The team saw it and immediately implemented our security protocol to address this issue. What they call it is, it says it was a distributed denial of service, DDoS, pronounced DDoS attack, was coming from various international ISP, internet service providers. When the team called me, the assistant general manager and our CFO called me, they recommend that I approve for all incoming emails to our server from outside of the United States to be discontinued. And I immediately approved that, and they discontinue all of that. And they look at what was going on, and they implement, and I just don't want to talk about our security posture publicly, they implement our fallback safety measure. And with that implementation, it prevented any penetration into our database. And as a result of that, we did not disturb the operations as a whole at the airport, but the only impact it had on us was the incoming of email from sources outside of the United States. By that evening, our server system starts settling down, and the team asked if we could start slowly ramp up back for receipt of email from outside agency. I left it to them. They decided to spend another night, another 24-hour monitoring email coming in. And I think today we are at a point where we're starting to slowly open up our server back to known entity because, we have foreign flag carriers, and we do a lot of business with agencies outside of the United States.
Thank you. Glad it was not worse than it was. Councilmember Lewis.
My questions was around the same thing. So I actually had about 4 questions I was going to ask you. You ran through them all. I can tell you prepared for those. My question is, how can we prevent this from happening again? And do you know what information they were trying to access?
So if you look at past history, when a cyber attack occurred, it's for ransom. I really can't tell what their motivation is. As long as we have technology, and technology is evolving, there's always going to be bad guys out there trying to do harm to one system, whether it's for financial gain or maliciousness. It's hard to predict. But our job, who's using that system, is to make sure that we have protective measure in place to minimize or stop them from penetrating our system to disrupt our operations.
Thank you for coming again this morning.
Councilmember Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Biodari. Good to see you again.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry I couldn't make it for the 5K, but next year.
I wasn't going to call you out,
5 o'clock in the morning is it's a time that exists, apparently. I did, looking at the construction impacts that are ongoing, I noticed that a lot of the delivery, at least for the domestic terminal, are around that 2022, 2023, 2024 timeframe. With all of the development that's happening downtown, the specter that kind of has loomed large over everything has been the World Cup in 2026. And I guess my question is two parts. Number one, for the upcoming procurement, the upcoming construction projects, are y'all looking at the World Cup as being kind of a de facto goal in which to have these projects delivered? And number two, do you foresee any changes or updates or alterations related to the World Cup with regards to the international terminal or any sort of operations that y'all have to be able to be prepared for the World coming to Atlanta?
So when we were talking about the World Cup and when Mayor Dickens got elected into office and I did my transition plan, there was a page that was devoted to the World Cup, and I guess we knew the importance coming from, having born in and raised in South America. I realized the importance of the World Cup, and like I said, it is not soccer, it's football, right? True football in a sense. I was in Germany in 1990. I was stationed in Germany when Germany won the World Cup, and I saw the impact on the entire country. And Atlanta, being a bid for a host city, we knew that it's going to be impactful. And now that we're bidding to host the semifinal, if Atlanta wins it, but when Atlanta wins the semifinal to host when the bidding city to host the semifinal is going to be 10 times bigger than Super Bowl. Okay, if we think Super Bowl was big, this will be big. One of the major projects that we will start, will come next year for is Ramp 21. We're going to habilitate Ramp 21, which is our fixed base operation where Signature is. That's a major construction project for that area. There are going to be other construction projects in preparation, not so much in preparation, but is based on our capital program, our master plan, and that is one that will have significant customer impact is the modernization of our restrooms and Concourse E modernization. But we are prepared, and we're in the planning stage right now. We put a team together to start our playbook in preparation of World Cup, and the construction project will have minimal impact, if any at all, to the participant and visitors to our city coming through the airport.
I appreciate that. Thank you. That's all I have.
Councilmember Overstreet.
Thank you, Chair Faroki, and thank you, Mr. GM Biadari, for your presentation today. I had the pleasure of traveling this week with the transportation delegation, and I was lucky enough to have Frank Rucker with me on this trip out to San Fran and back. And it is nothing like traveling with someone that knows every inch of the airport. As much as you think you know about the airport, when you see it from eyes of a person that really is hands-on in every aspect. So as you're going through your presentation today, I'm like, yeah, I saw that. Oh, yeah, he talked about that. The entire airport, and you're right, we do it different from others as that planning is there, and you don't really experience what's on the other side of that curtain. And even things that are in plain sight that he was pointing out to me that we were working on, and he knows the numbers just like you do. It really is amazing. You all are immersed in this airport, and that's why we are the best. But even the things that are in plain sight are not affecting our experience at the airport because of the way that you do it. And so I just wanted you to know that, travel was smooth this weekend. Everything was open. I was happy to see that. I mean, if it was closed, I didn't see it closed because I was looking. And the lines were there. People were being taken care of well, all the way from TSA to headed back to baggage claim at the end of the trip. So kudos to you. Thanks for the presentation. Thanks for just, always getting it done right. Even advancing forward with our projects and everything. You guys are doing such a great job, and thank you.
Thank you for the comment, Councilmember Overstreet. I'm sure to pass it on. Or Michael will make sure that the senior staff next Tuesday, he give kudos to the team instead of me giving him kudos all the time. And I will tell you, I have to wake up at 5 a.m. every morning to take my protein shake because I know at 5:30 or at 5:45 that phone call will be coming from Frank Rucker.
That's right.
And I have to keep up with that guy. I mean, or else,
Isn't
I'm
that
behind him.
amazing, though?
It's amazing.
I mean-
And that's why we as a city, I as the leader of the airport team, are so fortunate to have Frank on our team. Not only Frank, but all these team members sitting
Everyone.
behind me here.
Exactly. I think that the trip would be the same with all of you. So, kudos to that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before I recognize Councilmember Juan, I will know, I also ran the 5K on Saturday morning. It was my first time. It was fantastic. It's a lot of fun. I encourage folks who haven't done it to do so. I presume you didn't see me because I was so fast. I just whizzed past you.
Councilmember Juan, I will let you address
Yeah,
that.
no, I looked it up. Councilmember Juan beat me by about 90 seconds, so kudos to Councilmember Juan. The floor is yours, Mr. Juan. Yeah.
Wow, this has been an interesting presentation. First of all, I echo Councilmember Overstreet's kudos to the information that you provided. You know what I look at? I look at the budget numbers. You're on track. I appreciate the explanation about the expenditures and them being a timing impact, and then also the participation numbers. Y'all always deliver. I think that is a testament to the legacy that is our airport. I wanted to talk about two quick things and then ask a kind of a fun question. First one is around staffing. Continues to be soft and a challenge across the board. Is there anything that we can do to help with that? Are you finding that it's compensation? Is it, I mean, I would imagine that the airport is, especially our airport, is somewhere that folks would want to be, but is there anything we can do to help?
So I was at the National Airports Conference, and we had a CEO roundtable on Sunday morning. We started around 8:30, and we didn't complete our discussion until about noon on Sunday. And I captured what we discussed, the CEOs at that conference, and I sent it to my deputies. And what you're talking about, it is a nationwide issue in terms of staffing. And for me, when they ask, what is your biggest concern going into 2023? Number one is labor issue, not only from staffing, but labor issues that we see with the unions and stuff that is spilling over now in compensation, better working condition. I think that will spill into 2023. I think the market has been soft in the last 3 quarters. We are seeing that the market is opening and people are returning back to the workforce. We have advertised for some position, and the number of applications we're getting is just overwhelming. It just blew our mind away. So, and that other CEOs are telling me the same thing, that they're seeing an opening in the market. And the second thing we're worried about is the cost of doing business into 2023. What would it cost us? Because on the bill infrastructure, as we are talking today, is Buy America. And the question is, are those goods and services going to be available for us to purchase? And if it is, at what cost? And so those are the big things. What you could do to help us, just continue to support us. I think the market is opening, and we truly appreciate your support in what you do day in and day out. Every week, every other week that we stand here, that you guys support us is a win for us, and it makes our job that much easier.
Appreciate that. That information. The second question is, are you at liberty to say, I'm looking at the 911 calls. Are you at liberty to say what generally those calls are about? Because there is a significant uptick in that over the last 3 quarters.
Yeah, there's a few areas. Number one is, of course, we continue to have our aircraft declaring an emergency call that we have to respond to. Number two is, as it pertains to disturbance call, we have seen a strong increase in that trend since the pandemic started, significant increase. And then injuries, older people traveling, slip and fall, or medical issues, EMS calls.
Next, I was just curious about that. And the final fun question, since Councilmember Dozier brought it up in terms of the World Cup. The mayor was at an event at Lindbergh MARTA station where we're doing soccer in the streets and now soccer in the stations. And he threw out the idea of soccer at the airport, building a soccer field out there. So I'm going to amplify that signal. I think it'd be one of the coolest things that we could do, but I don't know if it's even technically or feasibly possible, but let's dream big.
As you know, our footprint is only 4,700 acres, so the mayor hasn't spoken to me as yet, so I am sure at the appropriate time he will have a conversation with me. And it's football.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a pitch, not a field, right? Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Baydari. Appreciate your presence and your team's presence and the thoroughness of your report. I will say, I think one thing the committee will benefit from, at some point we can talk about the timing, is whether it's part of a quarterly report or a separate presentation, is kind of where you see, where the airport sees the future of aviation over the next kind of 5 years or so, and how we're not only planning projects for that, but how we're thinking about customer service and kind of where aviation is going in a post-COVID world. Is it going back to where it's going before? What does this mean for our own infrastructure and how the airport's run? But we can talk about that another time. But I think we would love to have that conversation with you.
Yeah, and I would love to come up here and do a presentation on where we as CEOs of airports see the future of aviation in the next 20 years.
Terrific. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we move to ordinances for first and second reading, I did want to invite Commissioner Anderson Bomar to come up. Today is not a ATL DOT presentation day, but she wanted to give us a quick update and potentially take a question or two from the body. So Commissioner, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate it. As you know, all of the mayor and all the council members received a copy of the draft strategic delivery plan for the new infrastructure bond and T-SPLOST. We met the deadline of September 30th for that delivery. Please remember, it is a draft. We fully expect to interact with the council members and get your comments, your input on the document itself. We already know that there's going to be one update to the document. We delivered the document on Friday the 30th. On Tuesday the 4th, we had a meeting with finance, with bond counsel, and the investment bankers. And we're given some new information that the bonds that are being pursued for this referendum, to support the referendum, require that projects be delivered in a 3 to 5 year time frame. And some of the projects in the bond program were in years a little bit further out. So the change that we know is coming, nothing will be moved further out based on this, but some projects will be moved to an earlier date. We're working now through what that looks like, but we will be bringing to you an updated batching that shows several projects moved to earlier dates. So I just wanted to let you know about that. A couple of other things have happened to help us do a great job delivering the program. As you all know, you're going to receive a report about the changes in procurement. That's going to be very instrumental. The changes that the Commissioner of DOP and his team have put together are going to be instrumental in helping us to successfully deliver the program. Working with them, we were able to get the general engineering services contracts done. We already had a kickoff meeting with 12 teams of consultants who will be available for both staffing of projects as well as design work. So we have a very robust stable of talent from which we'll be able to draw to help us with that part. Because as you remember, projects go through planning, design, and then construction. And so we have very limited staff, city staff, to do many of those tasks. So we do supplement with consultants. And I just want to wrap up by saying that in addition to speaking with you and all the council members about the document itself and any questions you might have, any items you want to discuss, please remember that you have two types of discretionary dollars. in the bond program. You have vertical and horizontal dollars, $1.5 million in each bucket. We urge you to begin to think about how you want to spend those dollars. The sooner we get them programmed, the more likely we are to be able to deliver them in that 3 to 5 year window. We hope in the 3-year window. We hope the projects that you put forward are projects that we can deliver quickly. We'll be happy to work with you. We have a variety of sources of information that perhaps can inform you about the kinds of things that are being requested. We have our 311 list. We have a number of items that you've legislated. We have a variety of sources of information for transportation infrastructure improvements that we'll be happy to share with you and further discuss to help you be strategic in how you allocate those dollars. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Commissioner. Before I turn to Councilmembers Dozers and Juan, I just want to note for members of the public that the strategic plan that wasn't entirely clear is essentially the sequencing of infrastructure bond funded projects and T-SPOS 2.0 funded projects over the next 4-5 years.
5 years.
5 years, correct. Okay, great. Councilmember Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Commissioner, for sharing that information. Thank you for the email. I know a lot of groups across the city that are actively focused on this issue. We're waiting with bated breath on that information. And I really appreciate, too, that the tweaks that y'all are making aren't pushing projects to the right. They're, if anything, pushing projects to the left. So that's really phenomenal to hear. I do wonder, and to allude to Councilmember Juan's allusion of something I've brought up several times during our committee and council meetings, but I do get worried about inflationary pressures on our ability to deliver projects. And, you know, even Austin, Texas, for instance, they just did a property bond to raise money for a light rail. That project has already doubled in the 2 years since the voters went to the polls for that particular referendum. And I recognize that this particular package that we have as a city was relatively conservative, and there was a healthy contingency baked in. I'm always going to remain concerned that we'll not be able to deliver on what was promised or what was put forth before voters.
I absolutely concur with your concern. Although there was a good contingency built into the program, right now inflation is far outpacing that contingency. So we do have concerns. We will look at every project and every budget, and we will squeeze as hard as we can to get as much done with those dollars. We are looking at some innovative delivery strategies to see if we can stretch those dollars. Sometimes, you know, we fully design projects and then we put them out for construction. There are some methodologies where you can do design build where you're working together and you can find ways to value engineer a great solution, but at a more economical cost. There are a variety of things that we're going to look at to see if we can get the most out of those dollars and hopefully get all the projects done. But I agree that we're all concerned about that.
And that's good to hear. And my ask is the more that you communicate, not only just with us as council members, but also to our constituents and to our communities, I think the better the overall process will be. I know I'm appreciative of your department and your outreach to myself and Councilmember Overstreet and Councilmember Boone around Cascade, for instance, Cascade Phase 1. Only a tiny part of that Phase 1 project is in District 4, and a lot of my constituents want to know, well, if Cascade Phase 1 is expected to be delivered in 2025, does that mean that Phase 2, which is where the Kroger is, where Tuskegee Airmen Global Academy is, will that begin in 2025 and end in 2020? And I know that's not the case, but those are the types of questions that I get. And so my ask is if you can even be communicative about those subsequent projects so that folks have a little bit more of a warm fuzzy that we'll be able to deliver all these projects on time and on budget. And so that's just my main ask, is not just communicating with us as council members, but also the more town halls and workshops and community events that y'all are doing. I think the better it will be for everyone.
Absolutely. And we did actually have a meeting earlier this week to talk about a revamped portion of the website that will do a really good job just putting all the information out there and will allow us to keep everybody updated. So we've already started that in motion.
All right. And then,
yeah, we do want to be very transparent about this program.
Absolutely. And just to state that again more broadly beyond transportation, because I know some of these projects are tied to public safety and parks and recreation. So just for the folks who are watching, who are parts of Parks and Recreation, others like Noda Park, and with the Zone 4 police precinct and the James Orange Park rehab, the more communication we have about all these projects, the happier our constituents will be, the happier we will be.
Absolutely. And you're absolutely right. And it is being managed. And when you read the document, it is one program, one Atlanta, one program. So all of the projects that are being managed by DEEM, all the projects that are being managed by Parks and Rec are part of this whole package. So yes, we'll all be communicating the same way and managing similarly.
Thank you.
Councilmember Juan.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Commissioner. Question for you. You said that the new bond, not new, but the bond requirements that you learned of requires the projects to be delivered within 3 to 5 years. By delivered, what do you mean? Does it mean completed or funds allocated and dedicated or contracted? What does it mean?
That was the first question I asked, and it is dollars spent.
Okay.
So, my concern, and I will echo what my dear friend, the general manager from the airport said, staffing is tight. When we do our presentation, the quarterly report, you'll see how many vacancies we have. We have a lot of vacancies. So in our budget conversations, we're going to be talking about need to fill a lot of positions. We will take advantage of the consulting contracts that we have to provide some staffing, but we need a balance. We need enough city staff to oversee and manage, because ultimately we are responsible, not the consultants. So we do have to make sure that we have adequate staffing to do the delivery, but we've got our running shoes on and polished, and we're putting a lot of steps in place. We have a meeting next week with all the internal departments to start setting things up for the initial work orders, for the initial purchase orders, for all of those pieces, so that when the dollars become available to us, November, December-ish time, we'll have the go on the dollars for the new program, that we have everything in place to start running on that delivery pursuit.
Yeah, that was my follow-up question, is just staffing, because obviously we're going to need a big bubble of staff for at least the next 2 years, not just for the 2022, but we still are finishing up 2015, right. And now that we've got this new hard deadline on, essentially it'd be awkward to wrap up 2022 when still have 2015 projects that are a decade old. So to the extent that y'all come up with the plan, either how we figure out how we bring on staff, how we augment our contracts. This is
we're looking at it all.
Pretty big bell, and I know that your team and I have a meeting even today at noon about 2015 projects. So yeah, all right. So that pedal to the metal, we gotta figure out. And then finally, something you said, and I see Councilmember Norwood out there, and she had sent all of us colleagues an email. Per the legislation, the oversight legislation that we passed earlier this year, we are supposed to come up with our district, at least our preliminary district spend plans by the end of this year. We have 4 council meetings left. One of the things that we can have a conversation about is maybe just broad stroking kind of the general buckets that we're all thinking about. I think rather than trying to go to the administration's team to get pricing now, I'd rather them figure out their hiring plan, their project plan. We don't have to hard commit to our list of projects until 2025, but at least this way we can start thinking about, oh yeah, I want to allocate X% to sidewalks, X% to streets, X% to buildings, X% to parks, and then start that dialogue, which I believe is what the legislation intended to do in the first place. So I'll just make that recommendation. I can work with all of y'all on that, but let's, to the extent that we can right now, stay out of their way so they can get their project plan ready to go, because like I said, 23, 24 for y'all are going to be major bubble years in terms of work and deliverables. So thank you.
Yep, thank you. And I'll just intercede really quickly before I turn to Councilmember Overstreet. First is on the December 31st deadline for district council members articulating how they intend to spend their bond dollars. I'm actually preparing legislation to extend that deadline a bit. I think even we can have this debate offline, but even a broad brush requires some level of cost understanding about what projects cost. And the bond dollars haven't been issued yet. They're not in hand. And I think we're all going to need time with the department to kind of price projects, but we can have that discussion. You also brought up a good point about staffing. I want to just interject really quickly to see if there is concern on the department's part, not on internal staffing, but on the ability to find the contractors to complete the work. One is currently stated, but two, if you're moving bond projects up to fit in the 3 to 5 year window, does that private sector support and workforce exist to deliver these projects in a metro market where there's a lot of other projects going on?
That's a very realistic concern. That's one of the reasons we're looking at a variety of contracting methods for the delivery part of the projects, based on size, based on complexity. If we can come up with different creative ways of doing it, we hope we can maximize the availability of that pool of talent. But you're absolutely right. We're competing with Georgia DOT putting out $1 billion a year of construction work, our own airport putting out a lot of construction work, all the counties and cities around us putting out a lot of work. So there is tremendous competition. One of the things that I hope we're also doing, and I've seen evidence of the city already engaging in workforce development, in opportunities. We're working with some of the contractors, encouraging them to do workforce development and outreach, build their ranks. Yeah, we're gonna turn all those stones to try to have that resource available to us as well.
Thank you. Councilmember Overstreet.
Ms. Belmar, thank you so much for coming today. You know, when that article came out the other day, I feel like a week ago, but it was probably yesterday. I got quite a few calls about the actual draft. And so a couple questions. When is the actual draft supposed to be the final product?
So when the council decides to adopt it, so as I said, we'll do a presentation, we'll be meeting with you, we'll be taking input and making refinements to the document. But again, it is always the prerogative of the council to request updates. So, you know, we hope that end of October-ish, council will see fit to adopt it early November so that it aligns with the dollars coming in so we can start spending those dollars. But it's not a one-time, you approve it and then it's forever. If, you know, things change, conditions change, if we need to make further amendments to it, that's certainly something that the council can request.
And is the actual final strategic plan going to also be as public as the draft?
Absolutely.
Okay, I appreciate that. And I appreciate you for accommodating my questions as soon as I read the article. Also, what's really important here is that everyone understands that nothing is dropped off of the list of what we worked on last year in order to come up with our T-SPLOST 2.0 plan. And that's really something that's hard to convey to constituents because they only see what they see. And it's important for us to be able to assure them and to put trust in us to deliver what we say we're going to do. When a project is pushed out 5 years, and thank goodness they've told us now that we have to have our projects completed within 3 to 5 years. But when they're pushed out, they lose confidence in us as a city. And so I just want to make sure that the batching that's indicated in the strategic plan is thoughtful in what it looks like in the different quadrants because they only know what they see. So like take for instance Cascade Complete Streets Phase 1. We're literally still working on something that my family went to the Cascade United Methodist Church to pick out benches for in 2016. Or was that, yeah, I think it was like 2016. And we can't look at the website and see that that delivery is probably not going to be completed until 2025, yet phase 2 is supposed to start, so we've got to put that 3 to 5 year plan in place and really and truly stick to it. I know that we're all saying the same things, but it is paramount that we do that. It is. And so now, I want another question answered because, again, my constituents are very alarmed by the strategic plan, the delivery of it. Not that the projects aren't there, they are, but the delivery of it. And the main thing is, as a group, as a council, we actually did the batching, like now you're calling it batching, we call it phase 1, we called it, I don't know, it could be called anything. But we did it as a group. And we took it out to the community to decide which batches were when. Didn't we do that? So it was, yeah, so how did we come up with the design, construction, and completing? Who did that? Of the current T-Splosh, because that's still batching.
Oh, are you talking about T-Splosh 1.0?
Yeah, now, where we are right now. Because I know we did the rebaselining and prioritization as a group.
Yeah, that was T-Splosh 1.0, the 2015 project.
Yes, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the one I'm talking about. So I'm trying to see what hand did we have as a council in the batching.
So what we did was a data-driven batching of the projects. We used a lot of factors to put together what I consider to be a rational plan, delivery plan. It looked at a wide variety of things, including the Safety, Equity, and Mobility Index that the team developed. It looked at whether we had matching money from any other entities like the federal government or the state government, or in some cases a CID. It looked at some balance on, throughout the council districts. It looked at where the projects were in their life cycle. If we have everything starting in design and you don't see construction, nobody's happy. But if we do all the construction up front and then we have several years of no activity because everything's in design, that's not a good answer. So we looked at a lot.
So no council input, though?
No, because we were charged with bringing you a draft. And now is the time for us to sit down.
Now's the time.
And do that refinement.
And that's where I am.
Yes, ma'am.
That's where I am with the question.
Yes.
So now is the time for us to weigh in on what we see, the delivery of the projects that
Correct.
we've all, we picked out. And I'm just, I'm here for that.
I appreciate
Just so you
that.
know. This is the part where I'd like to lean in more because I'm not a fan of my batching.
Understood.
But I do appreciate you keeping on track with what you promised you would deliver to us as a council. Whether it's exactly the way I want it or not, it's still accountability. And that part I appreciate. And just for the record, outside of the 2022 infrastructure program, can you talk a little bit about what else the constituents can expect? Because when an article like that comes out, it makes it seem as if that's all you're getting. And we're doing more than that. So just talk about how there are things that are still happening. And
We have so many other programs that are ongoing. We, of course, have the LMIG, the paving program, and we'll be talking about that because we know how much money Georgia DOT will provide to us for the next 3 years, and we have to find the matching money for that. So that's one other opportunity for additional resources for us to get projects done. We have the work that we do in response to the 311 calls. We have our infrastructure management group that responds to those requests. We have the capital improvement program projects, the traffic calming projects. There are a lot of buckets within which we do project work besides just the T-Splost bond program. So there are many different ways that projects, and of course, some of it also comes through the legislation that you provide and the use of your discretionary dollars.
Great. Thanks for that. So looking forward to you all coming to our districts to speak about the projects that we're currently doing. That, I will say, is something that really does help the community, just as Councilmember Dozier was speaking about, because it just allows the constituents to really understand where we are with everything, ask their questions, and feel good about the work that we're doing. So anyway, thank you very much for addressing this today, and I'm looking forward to leaning in on
I believe we have one meeting already scheduled for November the 3rd.
yes,
to your
a community
Happy to do that
meeting.
with any council members who would like to host a meeting. with us.
Absolutely. And thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Overstreet. I'll note I met with ATL DOT early this week about the strategic plan for projects in District 2 and whether we could trade some going forward and backward. I mean, this is the tension and exercise of public governance, right? Everyone wants their projects today. Everyone can't have their projects today. If we do it equitably across the city, which projects can kind of go first in equitable fashion? If you want a project to go earlier, you probably need to move a project backwards. So there's some trade-offs. You know, we're in a job and a profession where you know, you can't always get what you want, and the challenge is to figure out how to do it in the most fair and rational process, though I realize rationality and politics are often at odds. So I'll turn now to Councilmember Lewis.
So thank you again for coming this morning, this afternoon, morning still. My questions are around staffing. We've been having the same staffing issues since I got here in January. And the airport, I know when they talk about staffing issues, they're constrained by some federal laws. The one law I hate is the 10-year background check that they have at the airport, which is something that they can't get rid of unless the act of Congress happens. Here in Atlanta, what does it take for us to get fully staffed? And if we were fully staffed in your department, do you think that you could actually get some of these issues, some of these problems done, some of these situations actually done?
So working with the new Commissioner of HR, we hope to put a plan in place when we have additional funded positions, because we have a lot of positions that were not funded in this fiscal year. So we're working to identify the mission-critical positions and put a plan in place for acquiring that talent. Yes, if we have more staff, obviously our capacity to deliver is going to improve. I mean, we have project managers, internal project managers that are handling 10 and 12, at least 10 and 12 significant projects, which is a big load. It's hard to do.
And I know since I got here, one thing I've tried to do from this podium is actually get people jobs. I know I have people that have been applying for jobs, and they've been sending HR we create our own spreadsheet. We've been following folks, trying to get them jobs. And for some reason, they just aren't moving forward. And so some people say that the jobs they're applying for are not even open. And my question is, if you could send me a list of the jobs that you have open currently, and if I want to know, like, we can get someone from HR up here to talk about how soon we can get people hired, because the airport is having job issues, Parks and Rec is having job issues, transportation is having job issues. We can get people. I got 40 people right now who filled out applications with the city of Atlanta in a spreadsheet who want a job who will start tomorrow. So I need somebody from HR to come up and talk to us so we can just see how can we get these folks moved forward.
I wholeheartedly agree. Let's get some matching done of skills and needs. I do postings on LinkedIn, and I've gotten resumes from a variety of people who are interested in coming to work for the city, in our discipline area. And as soon as we have positions approved that, that align with our needs, I have resumes ready to go. So you're absolutely right. Now that we have a new person in place, I'm sure she's getting her sea legs under her. I can relate. I'm just finishing my 3rd month, so I can feel her need to have a little bit of time to get oriented.
About the process.
Yeah,
The
so,
process should be seamless anyway. I think that we should be able, like, if I got a list of 40 people who apply for jobs all of them months ago, I would like to have a list of your jobs and any other department we have in here. If you can send me a list of the jobs that you have open, because I'm getting these calls and people are getting out of jail right now. They need City of Atlanta's a first chance opportunity. I mean, a recovering, second chance place. We need these jobs. We're talking about unskilled jobs. We're talking about people who can go outside and break up some concrete, lay some stuff out. How can I get that list, and how can I get someone from HR so we can start working together now on filling this? Because all of us got issues with projects not being done since 2015. It sounds like the issue is manpower.
certainly one of
And I
those.
got 40 people right now in a list that are waiting for those jobs. So hopefully we can get someone from HR up here to help out, and we can start working on these now.
Happy to participate in that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Lewis, and thank you, Commissioner Anderson Bomar. We will have a full report from ATL DOT on November 16th.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Ordinances for first read, Mr. Johnson.
Item number 1, 22-01782, an ordinance by Transportation Committee amending the fiscal year 2023 capital budget for various capital funds in the aggregate amount of $1,928,856.86 to transfer appropriations from completed, canceled, realigned, or postponed projects at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport and for other purposes. Item number 2, 22-01783, an ordinance by Transportation Committee to amend the fiscal year 2023 Aviation Encumbrance Program Fund budget by adding to anticipations and appropriations in the amount of $569,216,307.0 to reestablish the Aviation Encumbrance Program capacity to fund future projects at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport and for other purposes. Item number 3, 22-01784, an ordinance by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to revise the lease agreement with the United States of America Department of Homeland Security, Transportation Security Administration for the lease of city-owned space at 1075 Airport Loop Road to execute documents to formally acknowledge the city as the landlord under the lease as of February 1st, 2022, and to extend the lease on a month-to-month basis for a period not to exceed 10 months, retroactively effective from March 1st, 2022, through no later than December 31st, 2022, to ratify the lease of the premises from March 1st, 2022, through the execution date of the agreement authorized herein and for other purposes. Item number 4, 22-01785, an ordinance by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation to accept the donation from the 3M Company to enter into agreements with the 3M Company for implementation of donation acceptance, to amend the fiscal year 2023 budget by adding to anticipations and appropriations in the amount of $60,000.00, to increase the budget amount authorized for the 3M Equity School Zone project and for other purposes. Item number 5, 22-01786, an ordinance by Transportation Committee to amend Ordinance 20-1471 adopted by the Atlanta City Council on August 3rd, 2020, and approved as per City Charter Section 2-403 on August 12, 2020, for the purpose of revising the dedicated roadway lanes for the exclusive use of transit within the Summer Hill Corridor as illustrated in Exhibit B, thereto on behalf of the Department of Transportation, all other parts of the ordinance to remain unchanged and for other purposes. Section H, ordinance for second reading, item number 6, 22-01751, an ordinance by Councilmember Jason Winston authorizing the mayor to accept and sign a grant agreement with the U.S. Department of Transportation in the amount of $16,460,000.00 for the Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity discretionary grant to amend the fiscal year 2023 budget by adding to anticipation and appropriation in the amount of $16,460,000.00 and for other purposes. And Mr. Chair, this item needs to be substituted to add the account streams.
Motion to substitute by Juan, second by Dozier. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. The substitute is brought before you.
Motion approved to substitute by Juan, second by Lewis. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable on substitute. Item number 7, 22-01755, an ordinance by Transportation Committee to waive the methods of source selection pursuant to Section 2-1187 of Article 10 Procurement and Real Estate Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, and any other conflicting code provisions authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute the Second Amendment to Agreement FC 7484, terminal-to-terminal shuttle services at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport with A National Limousine Incorporated, doing business as Airport Shuttle Group on behalf of the Department of Aviation, to extend the term of the agreement on a month-to-month basis for a period not to exceed 6 months, and an amount not to exceed $3,227,599.00. All contracted work shall be charged to and paid from account numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
Mr. Johnson.
Good morning, Michael Smith.
Oh, Smith. I don't know why I said Johnson.
Deputy General
Apologies,
Manager.
apologies.
No problem. This is the contractor that runs the shuttle service from the international concourse to domestic and back. We're in the process of resoliciting this contract. It doesn't expire until the end of the year, but we will need some time to complete the solicitation and get the new contract set up.
Motion approved by Juan, second by Lewis. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable. Item number 8, 22-01758, an ordinance by Councilmember Byron D. Amos to amend provisions in ordinance 21-00679, which amended Chapter 150, Traffic and Vehicles, Article 4, Stopping, Standing, and Parking, Division 5, Vine City Permit Parking of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances to update certain provisions related to property and street name changes and for other purposes.
Mr. Smith.
Good morning, council members. Alan Smith, Interim Deputy Commissioner for ATL DOT, TIM Division. This legislation needs to be held because text needs to be added in the definition section to provide appropriate language on the signs to be installed.
Motion to hold by Juan, second by Lewis. Please open the vote on the motion to hold.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. This item is held in committee. Item number 9, 22-01778, an ordinance by Councilmember Jason Dozier expressing the City of Atlanta's intent to abandon the portion of Garnett Street Southwest located between Forsyth Street Southwest and Garnett Street MARTA Station to allow the improvement of the right-of-way to be included in the development of adjacent city-owned property at 184 Forsyth Street Southwest to improve the public access to the Garnett MARTA Station, to increase the amount of affordable housing constructed at the transit-oriented site and for other purposes. And the administration requested this item be filed.
I support that, and we'll come back to it because I think this is important, but we have some more work to do on this. Move the file.
Motion to file by Dozier, second by Juan. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. This item is filed. This takes us to Section I, Resolutions. Item number 10, 22-R4417, an amended resolution by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to issue task order FC 10640A-149 for contract FC 10640A, job order contracting services with Astra Roehead Fox JLC joint venture for downtown City Hall vicinity street resurfacing and associated street maintenance and activities phase 1 and 2 on behalf of the Department of Enterprise Asset Management and the Atlanta Department of Transportation in the amount not to exceed $6,209,035.88. All contracted work to be charged to and paid from the account numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
Commissioner Anderson Bomar. And as you approach, I'll just to expedite things and make sure your comments are, I mean, we'll take questions ready to the committee, but your comments are pointed. I think what the primary concern is understanding the funding flow and how it will or will not impact existing projects or future projects. and why, but I suspect there'll be other questions on that from the committee.
So to that point, thank you again for allowing me to speak on this. And again, I want to apologize that we had the conflict last week. We had the kickoff meeting with the engineering consultants and didn't have the committee meeting on the calendar when the meeting got set. So I apologize that I wasn't available last meeting to answer the questions. So the most important thing is no project will be changed or delayed. No existing project will be changed or delayed because of this work. The dollars that we're requesting to utilize are dollars in the matching category of work, but where a project is not at the point where it is ready to proceed. So if we have a project like the MLK Bridge, there is still bridge work to be done before the resurfacing can happen. That's probably 6 months to a year out that the resurfacing would happen. So we would utilize those funds for the work now, and then when the new bond is sold, those dollars become available for that project. So nothing will change. No project will be delayed because of this implementation.
So can you talk, I mean, you articulated that, I get it. From a timing perspective, I think it's helpful for folks before they make their decision, yay or nay, to understand the timing of this. So you're saying money that exists now will be used, bond, or I guess, will be replenished by bond dollars when the bond is issued.
Correct.
Uh,
That timeframe
Can you,
is
so a couple
about 60
things.
days.
Can you talk about the timeframe, why it's a short timeframe, and why you're not worried that projects will be delayed or slowed down by it? And then second, when the bond is issued, what bond funds are being used? What line item arguably is being used for appropriately here?
So I can speak to most of that. I thought Commissioner Bala was going to be here this morning because he is prepared to address this in some more detail. He was coming down. But the bonds are to be sold in October. We're actually finalizing, and you'll have an item coming before you to approve the proceeding with that bond sale. Commissioner Bala projects that we'll have the money in the bank within 30 to 60 days, at which time those funds become available to cover the projects from which we'd be utilizing funds now. So that's about the time frame for that, filling that gap.
And can you re-articulate the urgency of this? Why not just wait till the bond funds come through and do this in March?
Well, for two reasons. One is March is probably before the next paving season actually begins. The temperatures have to be at a certain point consistently for paving work to happen. So not sure if the weather in March is a little bit more unpredictable. Paving happens.
So March is just a theoretical
okay.
day. I mean, let's just say next June. I mean, I think, why don't we just wait till we have the bond dollars to put into this, because that's what they're appropriated for.
Agreed. So there is interest in the very heart of our city, particularly, the area around our city hall, being in good condition. The pavement condition index for the roads around here, as I shared with you in some correspondence, all but one of the roads are at or way below the city average condition. So there is interest in having the area in our downtown. It's very heavily utilized, in better condition. The springtime paving, we would have to wait until after the legislative session, because there's so much activity here during those months that it would probably be very disruptive to do the paving at that time. So we have a small window of opportunity if we are afforded the go-ahead on this project to get these roads done in this final days of this paving season.
Would you stake your job in
Good thing I'm close
your
to
level
retirement.
level of confidence that the funds from the bond will replenish the funds used to pave in the time you described.
Absolutely. That I would do.
So 100% certainty.
Absolutely.
Councilmember Overstreet.
No questions like that from me.
But I do want to tell you I love my job, so that's a big statement for me that I'm willing to put it on the line.
Okay. But I did, one person during public comment, I think it might have been Ms. Cerna, talked about skipping the line. Can you just speak a little bit about that? Make sure that everyone is on the right page about how this is not skipping the line.
Appreciate that opportunity. So there's always movement in when projects get done for a whole host of reasons. We know the council members bring things forward when they're very important to be done. This is a project that has been needed for a while. It is an opportunity that we have because other projects are in the stage of their life cycle where funds are available. So we feel like, we have the opportunity to seize a moment, get this done. And if I may just add one thing, so Ms. Cerna did also talk about safety. Obviously, safety is very important to us. I've spoken with many people who do bicycle to work, and they talk about the potholes and ruts in the road and the decaying road conditions where they're dodging those, which is not safe to come to work at City Hall. So, it's not that we're ignoring safety at all. Safety is important. We are actually having conversations. We're collaborating with ADID through, the CAP Downtown Improvement District. They do have a proposed project, a cycle track project on MLK. They are not completely done with their design or their public engagement yet. But what we have agreed is if we do go forward with this repaving project, that the road will be striped in anticipation of that, and we'll put up the barricades to hold those lanes until we have the final design and all the necessary approvals for that. So we are thinking ahead, we are anticipating, and we are trying to put things in place. And certainly ADA ramps would be included with this. There are no sidewalk improvements with this other than ADA ramps.
Okay. Give me an example of the state route that we're in negotiation with to be reimbursed.
Memorial Drive
Okay.
is the key road. There's another small segment of Trinity, but the main road that we feel is really important. It is in terrible, terrible condition. And it is the gateway to this community, to this downtown area. So if we're going to pave the other roads right around this area, it seems logical to do that. And I know Ms. Mitchell, Ms. Kenyatta Mitchell is speaking with Janine Miller, the Director of Planning for the state, about allocating those funds.
Thank you, Chair. I yield.
Councilmember Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Commissioner. So one of the things that I do acknowledge is that I think just about every street in this proposal is in my district. And I've had a lot of conversations with Central Atlanta Progress. I've had a lot of conversations with constituents and with the administration about this because of, to Councilmember Overstreet's point, the concern about where we are in the line, if you will. I bike a lot of these streets, and I share the concerns by city employees that, there's a lot of potholes, you have to dodge things, and it makes it, you end up going into oncoming traffic. But I run into a lot of those same issues on Cascade. I run into a lot of those same issues on DeKalb Ave, which isn't in my district, but we talk about moving money from, or using renew funds from the 2015 bond and for this project. I know we were replenishing, but it's hard to navigate this perception, and especially with the presentation that you had earlier about the strategic implementation of all of these different projects together. And so I guess if you could talk to why the 2015 Renew Fund for repaving was selected for this as opposed to general fund dollars, as opposed to AR, American Rescue dollars, as opposed to any other potential funding stream, because I'm gonna have to go back to my constituents over in Beecher Donnelly and Oakland City and Venetian Hills to tell them that, this, or explain to them what you're sharing with us today, that, this isn't going to impact that project, but the perception is that we're moving monies around in a way that could potentially imperil our ability to deliver on things promised almost a decade ago. So could you talk to that a little bit more? And then I'll have another question for you.
Okay. So first I'll say we will not put any projects that are committed at risk. So I just want to be very clear about that. We were brought this project, I'll say late in the season, and did not have the opportunity to explore all the different potential funding options because some of them take far longer to get through the process than others. This was a methodology that we felt was reasonable because the bond dollars are intended for projects like this. There's a lot of resurfacing in the bond program because other projects are just at a point in their life cycle where they're not ready. So you talk about Cascade. Right now, utilities are being relocated. So our transportation work will come in right behind that. So we're not ready to resurface that road yet, as just one example. And that really applies to the other projects that we've looked at. If they're not ready to use those dollars, then they are reasonable candidates to put to work now, because we know the sooner we spend the money, the more value we get. With inflation, the longer we wait to do things, the more they're going to cost. So being able to squeeze in one more good project in this paving season seemed prudent, given that we had resources available with the opportunity to utilize the funding the way I've described.
Thank you. And then just my other question is with regards to, I appreciate you sharing the proposal for additional bicycle infrastructure on MLK. I know the administration or the Department of Transportation is applying for federal funding with regards to a potential Safe Street initiative on Central with the cycle track as a part of that. Number one, what would be the impacts of some of these other proposals that are ongoing? I know, regardless of if we get that federal funding or not, Central was identified as a street for Safe Streets enhancements as per the T-SPLOST package. So will there be any impacts to that with considering the timing of this and the need to deliver? Because I don't know how much opportunity there is for design or input with regards to design work. And then number two, just on that thread, is there an opportunity, because a lot of these streets are one-way streets, for instance, and I know we talked about MLK, but there's also Mitchell and then Central, of course. Is there an opportunity to explore road diet or additional bicycle infrastructure, not discussed like with MLK or Central, but Mitchell and some of these other streets as part of this package, since we're going to have to look at how we restripe all of these? To me, there's an opportunity here that we shouldn't lose.
Certainly an opportunity to look at it. Given the time frame, I'd have to really talk with the traffic engineering team to see if we have anything far enough along in planning to be able to make those decisions, because we want to make good decisions if we're going to change any of the configuration or any of the striping. But to your earlier point, Central Avenue is a project, so that project will not have to pay for, separately pay to resurface a street that's just been resurfaced. So, there, again, it's dollars that we're spending now. We'll get more bang for the buck spending them now, doing the resurfacing on Central. And then the striping can be changed, when the plan is finalized.
And just the other aspects that to consider with Summerhill BRT, for instance, I know Mitchell and MLK are included in that. And so just the more intentionality we have around multimodality in some of the existing projects that have been discussed and have been voted on by this council, and just making sure that any restriping efforts are holistic and future-proofing as much. I would hate for us to spend this money and then have to come back before council to sign on to another new IGA or another new funding stream to then put red paint in the road for bus lanes, or I know Forest Safety is also included in this conversation. So
Yes.
that's just my main ask, is to ensure that.
And we are actually using the Summerhill plans to drive the configuration, the striping of the roads, because we know that that's coming. And that's why we're able to look at incorporating the cycle track, because that's also incorporated in that larger view for the Summerhill project.
Thank you.
Before I turn to Councilmember Juan, just quickly, can you explain, I think there's confusion or potentially unanswered, that the 6 million plus in bond dollars will be used to replenish the projects that's being pulled from in this kind of short 1 to 2 month period. Where are the bond dollars coming from? I mean, the bond dollars are allocated to specific bond projects. Like, you talk about where this money is getting pulled from, or what projects potentially this is being pulled from on the bond list.
So I really have to defer that question, the response to that question to Commissioner Bala. He has indicated that that is not a problem, that there will be dollars available. So I don't have the specific, it's just from the paving category that the dollars will be taken. But
Sounds good, feels good, but we probably need more
I will get
more certainty
Yes.
on what it means for bond projects before any of us are comfortable moving forward, if at all. So before this meeting is out,
I will see
we
if I
probably
can
need
get a hold of
some
him.
clarity on that. Yeah, Councilmember Juan.
Thank you, Chair Froke. That was really what I was going to get at, is to get finance to just delineate. I'll start by saying that I've had a number of conversations with CFO Bala about the funding source. Really, the only other option, two other options would have been to try and completely reconfigure their budget, the department's budget, to find this money. And that's what she was saying. That's complicated. The second option would have been to pull it from fund balance, which we could have done. But this option is better perceived by the bond community, because you're taking like money to do like projects. And so I've gotten comfortable with the notion of the temporary. It's kind of like you're borrowing and you're going to put back within 30 to 45 days. I've gotten comfortable with that, except for one thing, and this goes back to your question. I think the specific answer that we're looking for is, we just published, again, with the implementation plan, the list of the 2022 bond projects. We just need it in full transparency to be able to go to the voters and say, this is where it was originally contemplated in the 2022 list, and all is done. And I think that solves that question. So hopefully, by the end of this meeting or at some point, we'll be able to get that simple answer. And to me, I'm done with this moving forward. I do want to respect the sequencing piece. I respect my colleagues in terms of wanting to get assurances that this doesn't upset the project list from 15 or from 22. I feel comfortable with that, but I do appreciate kind of the, based on the conversation we had, why wouldn't we try and pull projects forward now, knowing that we're going to have this big giant crush over the next 5 years? So if this is a strategy that works, maybe it's something we start looking at continually to relieve pressure on the project delivery schedule. So if we can get that answer, I'm fully on board.
Councilmember Lewis.
I say thank you to the mayor and Department of Transportation for actually putting this together. I'm not as concerned with the 6 million. I'm happy to see that y'all were crafty and shifty enough to find 6 million that we weren't spending. I know we have a lot of issues. We've been talking about 2015 since we've been sitting up here. Just projects that aren't being finished. I don't know what else money's out there. So I hope y'all able to find some more funds and point at District 12 with those funds. I appreciate y'all for being crafty and shifty and finding funds that were left over. Thank you again for presenting this plan. I think that our roads around our capital are horrible. I think we're going to call ourselves an international city, the greatest city in the world. I think we need to fix our roads. We're talking about the World Cup up here. We're talking about the Democratic National Convention. All these are Super Bowls every single day. When we bring people into our city, when they come in, they look at our city, they love the airport. They don't like District 12 as much. They get downtown, it should look good. And so I appreciate y'all for doing that. I hope that y'all able to move with the same speed with projects in District 12 as we move forward. But I support the mayor in doing this and the department and in finding that money. Thank you.
So Thank you, Councilmember Lewis. I think where we are is we'd like to hear from someone in finance to talk to us about the money, where it's coming from, how it affects the bond projects as articulated. So I don't think we're ready to vote on this one way or the other just yet. Councilmember Norwood, do you have a remark you'd like to make? Okay, yeah.
Yes, committee, if y'all will indulge me, the lady that prepared the Tuxedo Park traffic plan, who is the immediate past president, who was very involved last summer with our zoning, is here, and she has had a recent operation, so she was not able to get here during public comment. If she could have 2 minutes to speak, I would be very grateful.
So, Councilmember Norwood, I thought you all were going to come speak in relation to the paper, but now
This is in motion of the paper.
but we're not discussing the paper right now. I'm respectful of Ms. Cheatham's time and your time, but we're in the middle of figuring out what to do with the important repaving downtown. I'm happy to have Ms. Cheatham.
No. I'm sorry, I misspoke. She did that plan. She's here to speak on downtown, on exactly what you're talking about right now. She has comments about the downtown repaving.
Yeah, as I mentioned, we have a period of public comment, right? Because otherwise, it's a Pandora's box. People want to speak throughout the meeting. We have comment at the beginning. If it's part of your presentation on respect to Morris Mill and West Wesley, happy to entertain it then. But right now, we're still managing the downtown paper. I'd ask you to respect that. So let's go ahead and move on to item number 11, and we'll wait for finance for the time being. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, if there is no objection from the committee, can we take 11, 12, 13, and 14 together as a block?
Please do.
Item number 11, 22R4422, a resolution by Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari requesting the mayor's designee to make the intersection of LaFrance Street Northeast and Hutchinson Street Northeast an always stop control intersection to request the Atlanta Department of Transportation to install stop signs at the intersection and for other purposes. Item number 12, 22R4423, a resolution by Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari requesting the mayor or his designee to make the intersection of Woodbine Avenue Southeast and Montgomery Street Southeast an always stop control intersection to request the Atlanta Department of Transportation to install stop signs at the intersection and for other purposes. Item number 13, 22R4424, a resolution by Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari requesting the mayor or his designee to make the intersection of Wiley Street Southeast and Leslie Street Southeast an always stop control intersection to request the Atlanta Department of Transportation to install stop signs at the intersection and for other purposes. Item number 14, 22R4426, a resolution by Councilmember Mary Norwood requesting the mayor or his designee to make the intersection of 28th Street Northwest and Enjaco Road Northwest an always stop control intersection to request the Atlanta Department of Transportation to install stop signs at the intersection and for other purposes.
I will move to approve these always stop legislation. Second. Second by Overstreet. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. These items are found favorable. Item number 15, 22R4427, a resolution by Councilmember Mary Norwood requesting the mayor or his designee to make the intersection of Tuxedo Road Northwest and Powers Ferry Road Northwest an always stop control intersection to request the Atlanta Department of Transportation to install stop signs at the intersection and for other purposes, and the sponsor requested this item be filed.
Motion to file by Juan, second by Overstreet. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. The item is filed. Item number 16, 22R4501, a resolution by Transportation Committee increasing the compensation limit and authorizing the Aviation General Manager or his designee to issue task orders for project number FC 8468, domestic terminal parking decks reconstruction and replacement design phase services at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport with HKS Fitzgerald Walker Parking Thornton Tomasetti Joint Venture, a joint venture comprised of HKS Incorporated, Fitzgerald Collaborative Group LLC, Walker Parking Consultant Engineers Incorporated, and Thornton Tomasetti Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $8,600,000.00. All services will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
Mr. Smith.
Michael Smith, Deputy General Manager. This is a request to issue a task order for $8.6 million to the company. This will be the funding for the south deck that we're planning to construct in the current South Economy lot. This will be parking lot consisting of about 6,500 spaces and will be part of our parking replacement program.
Motion approved by Juan, second by Lewis. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable. Item number 1722R4502, a resolution by Transportation Committee to fund pre-construction services for Phase 3 for project number FC 8469, domestic terminal parking decks reconstruction and replacement, construction management at risk at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport with Holder, Austin, Moody, Bryson, a joint venture comprised of Holder Construction Group LLC, Austin Commercial LP, CD Moody Construction Company Incorporated, and Bryson Constructors Incorporated in an initial amount of $10 million and 0 cents for construction of the domestic terminal south deck. All services will be charged to and paid from the account numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
Mr. Smith.
As it says, this is related to the same project as a previous paper. This will be the construction team. They will start their work along with the design team in coordinating the work. They will do some early field exploration work, and again, it's for that project.
Okay. I will move to approve. Is there a second? Second by Dozier. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable. Item number 1822R4503, a resolution by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to issue task order number FC-10641E-133 for contract FC-10641E, job order contracting services with FH Passion SN Nielsen and Associates LLC for airport de-icing tanks repair and refurbishment services in the amount not to exceed $471,334.15 with a project management contingency of $50,000 and 0 cents on behalf of the Department of Aviation in an amount not to exceed $521,334.15. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and council numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
Mr. Smith.
As the general manager indicated in his report, we're preparing for the winter weather season, and this contract we're utilizing the city's small business job order contracting to refurbish and repaint our current de-icing tanks.
Motion to approve by Juan, a second by Overstreet. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable. Item number 1922R4504, a resolution by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute an agreement for RFPS 1220363, sustainability on-call services at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport with ATL Sustainable Aviation Partners 2035 joint venture on behalf of the Department of Aviation in an initial amount not to exceed $869,000 and 0 cents. All services will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
Mr. Smith.
This contractor will assist us in filling our sustainability requirements. We are asking for a contract that will be a 5-year period with an additional 2-year options. The funding will be done annually. So this contract is just for the first part of the first year of the agreement. We do have a DBE goal of 35% and a commitment from the contract at 38%.
Motion approved by Juan, second by Overstreet. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable. Item number 2022R4505, a resolution by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute the First Amendment to Agreement IFBC 1210208, right-of-way maintenance with Russell Landscape LLC on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation to add funding in the amount not to exceed $500,000.00. All contract work will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
Mr. Smith.
Thank you again. So this legislation is just to add additional funding to our gateway maintenance landscape contract with Russell Landscape. There are 8 locations throughout the city that they maintain for us, and this is just to add additional funding. And just so you know, I know the last few maybe CUC meetings, there were some questions the council had for Russell Landscape. We asked that someone come down on Russell's behalf, and we have them here today if you have any questions of them.
Mr. Lewis.
Thank you for giving them to come down. This was a huge surprise. I know we expected them to be at we invited them to the last CUC meeting, and I think we're going to invite them. We invited them to the next meeting as well. I know Councilmember Boone, she has a lot of questions for him. Mine I got 3 quick ones for him. I wasn't prepared for today. You surprised me today by coming. We thought you were going to be here yesterday. We were ready for you yesterday. Particularly because the contract that we want to talk to you about is through Public Works. And the Public Works folks were here yesterday. This contract right here, we aren't happy with your work in our area. And I think it's embarrassing the mayor and it's embarrassing me. I go to the barber shop and I have to lower my head because of some of the work on Cleveland Avenue. So, and it's a real thing. I really do have to lower my head. I really do have to answer questions in different ways because I know that the service that we're getting isn't the service that other folks are getting. That's why we were hoping to see you at the meeting yesterday, in which I had my questions ready for you. So my first question is this. What all streets are you doing in District 12? Can you get them for me? And why is it that we had to create a position of folks to inspector? Why we had to create an inspector position to follow Russell Landscape and folks around to make sure they're actually doing their work?
Hi, I'm John Weatherall with Russell Landscape. I'm sorry that I wasn't here yesterday. I was not invited. So had I been, I certainly would have been here, and I would have been prepared for your questions. We are under contract to service the arterial roads.
Do you mind getting a little bit closer to the mic?
Yeah, can you hear me now? Yeah, we were contracted to service the arterial roads every other week. I do not know, I can't rattle those off, all 12 in your district. But there's a list that we've been given to modify and to take care of. As you know, they've been neglected for a long time, and so it's taken a lot to get them back into the shape they're supposed to be in. I don't know about the creating a position. We have been working closely with DPW to inspect every inch of every road that we are under contract to take care of. We're moving through that process now. I'd welcome the opportunity to ride your district with you to take a look at all these things and make sure that we get them up to the level that you're looking for.
And I appreciate you. That's why I wish DPW was here, and I wish you could come at the next. I would invite you to the next utility meeting in which we can have the folks here to have a real conversation. Because what you just said is different from what other folks said in that meeting. I just want us to I want us to play cards with play spades with the cards up. That's what I want us to do.
Absolutely.
So, Mr. Smith, this paper is not the same paper that was at utilities yesterday. It's a different paper, correct? Same contractor, I understand, which is why the question's appropriate. But just want to be clear that this paper is not the one that was held at utilities.
No, sir.
Okay.
But it's a different paper.
Yeah, so, the next cycle for utilities, I think your presence is requested. Councilmember Juan.
Actually, correction, no, we moved that paper forward, but we changed the amount, and in order to get the second amount, it's half of the original contract, what was contemplated. We wanted them to come before us and have a conversation. So, yeah, that's the sequence, but yeah, I think the invitation to be at City Utilities is still open. My question is simple. So you're not aware from Public Works the comments or the feedback that was provided during the previous meetings?
No, I am aware.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
All right.
I'm aware. And I'm aware of the position. I just didn't know that, I can't tell you why it was created. But.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. But yeah, I think the appropriate forum for that paper will be in City Utilities, but I appreciate your being here today as well.
I will move to approve. Second by Juan. Please open the vote on item number 20.
The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 1 nay. This item is favorable.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Yeah. Thank you. Before we take item 21, can we return to item 10, which was the downtown repaving conversation and paper? I see finance here. Would y'all like to approach the podium? And the prevailing question here is, where are these dollars coming from in the bond package that would be applied to fill the money being spent from existing projects? And why isn't there a line item for it? Just kind of help us understand where these dollars are coming from and why bond projects are not affected.
Sure. Tina Wilson, Deputy CFO. So in order to kind of advance fund these projects, because the funding was needed sooner than when we would have accumulated enough funds in T-SPLOST, what we had proposed to do was identify projects, and with the help of ADI, identify projects in the 2015 renew bonds that were not being worked on right away. Utilize those funds to kind of pre-fund or advance fund these projects that needed to be done right now. When T-SPLOST, which just started to accumulate funds this month, once it accumulates enough funding in the T-SPLOST bucket, we will then replenish the 2015 bond funds for the funds that are used here.
So maybe I'm mishearing. I'm a bit confused now. I was under the impression that the dollars that would be used to replenish the T-SPLOST 2015 funds that are being used to pave downtown were coming from the infrastructure bond, not T-SPLOST 2.0. But I heard you say T-SPLOST 2.0. Can you explain to us where the $6 million that will be used to replenish the funds you're using to pave downtown with are coming from?
So in the T-SPLOST 2.0 project list, there are paving projects. This project is in the T-SPLOST 2.0 project list.
Okay, so there's no bond funds being used to help replenish the funds?
That's correct.
Okay. And so can you just, again, for the sake of clarity, explain to us where in T-SPLOST 2.0 this $6+ million is coming from?
So I can get you the specific line item, but there are paving projects that have been identified on the project list for this project. It is already included on the project list. So nothing is being eliminated by doing these projects, paying for these projects out of T-SPLOST 2.0.
So finance and DOT's position is that the T-SPLOST 2.0 dollars that are being used essentially here are not getting pulled from T-SPLOST 2.0 projects that are listed, but there's this $6 million flexibility to pave these extra streets downtown. So I think we're just trying to get some clarity on where that $6 million is coming from, even in T-SPLOST 2.0.
Yes, that's correct. The paving projects are in T-SPLOST 2.0.
These downtown street paving projects are in T-SPLOST 2.0.
Other than I think there are a couple of state routes that the state is going to fund, but these streets are included in that project, in the T-SPLOST 2.0 project list.
Councilmember Juan.
Thanks. Thank you, Dr. Wilson. I think the easiest thing to do, honestly, there is a project list for T-SPLOST and Renew Bonds 2.0 that has been published on the administration site. Print it out, highlight where the money's coming from, share it with us, we'll understand. I mean, it'll be full transparency to the public, and it's not like it's hidden somewhere. So I think that's what I'm looking for, and that I think is the easiest answer to the question that we're asking.
Yep, we can do that.
So thank you. But if y'all want to move it today, you got to do it in the next 10, 15 minutes. I mean, Councilmember Juan's about to leave. He's got a meeting he's got to go to.
But I'm going to try this. I'm willing to make a motion to move it forward with that condition, because it should be a relatively easy condition to meet. If not before the end of the meeting, then by Monday. I just, again, this notion of trying to pull projects ahead and get ahead of the curve is a good one, and I don't want us to wait another cycle to try and do this. So I'm going to try and make that motion. We'll see where it goes, and if not.
Okay. So a motion to move forward on condition that the council, the full council is provided with a list of projects at T-SPLOST 2.0 that.
Mr. Chairman, I resound item number 10 for the public.
Please.
Item number 10, 22R4417, an amended resolution by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor as designated to issue task order FC 10640A-149 for contract FC 10640A, job order contracting services with Asher Roehead Fox JOC joint venture for downtown City Hall vicinity street resurfacing and associated street maintenance activities, phase 1 and 2. On behalf of the Department of Enterprise Asset Management and the Atlanta Department of Transportation, in the amount not to exceed $6,209,035.88, all work to be charged to and paid from the council members listed herein and for other purposes.
Councilmember Juan, do you want to restate your motion?
Yeah, move to approve on condition, that condition being that by Monday, full council receives a list highlighted, the list that's on the administration's T-SPLOST Renew Atlanta page, highlighting where the funds were included in that issuance.
Oh, yeah. Well, you restated it, yes. Motion by Juan, second by Overstreet. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable on condition.
Item 21. Yep.
Takes us to item number 21, 22R4506, a resolution by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to apply for a fiscal year 2022 U.S. Department of Transportation Reconnecting Communities Pilot Planning Grant on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation in the amount not to exceed $2 million and 0 cents for the Lee Street Complete Streets project and for other purposes.
Well, I will. Let's ask, if you don't mind, Councilmember Dozier. These streets are this streets in his district.
My district as well. This is for the I-20 bridge portion of Lee Street.
The enthusiasm and the territorialism is high today. Councilmember Dozier, would you like to make a motion?
I would. I just want to say I appreciate the administration and Department of Transportation looking at this project as being worthy of an application for federal funding. I remind not only our stakeholders, but our constituents as well, that the Atlanta University Center, 30% of their students don't have a car, rely on walking. We have the Mall West End, which is a huge destination, not only for the West End community, but for the region. And we have the West End MARTA station, pedestrian, foot traffic, cyclist traffic, bus traffic. This site is where a lot of that meets up. And I think it's a wonderful thing that we're looking at federal funding opportunities to make West End, make Southwest Atlanta walkable, bikeable, and accessible to all. So on that, I move approval, and I'm happy to support.
Motion to approve by Dozier, second by Lewis. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable. Takes us to Section J, due referred items. Item number 22, 22R4420, a resolution by Councilmember Byron D. Amos to request the Atlanta Department of Transportation to replace and install neighborhood permit parking signs authorized pursuant to Ordinance 21000679 for the Vine City Stadium Area Permit Parking Program, to request the Atlanta Department of Transportation to issue required parking permits to encourage Atlanta parking enforcement in the Vine City Stadium area and for other purposes. And this was found favorable in yesterday's Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee meeting.
Mr. Smith.
Thank you. So we ask that this be held while the appropriate language for signs for Ordinance 22-0-1758 is determined.
A fair question. Is that typical that we have the specific language for the signs prior to moving the paper forward?
One moment, please.
The Godfather, Mr. Kadir.
North of Korea Tier DLT. So we have the ordinance going through right now. That ordinance has to be approved. It's held right now. So the resolution, if the resolution moves ahead and the ordinance doesn't move ahead, there's going to be could be a conflict. So we have the way the ordinance reads is a very long language, and we cannot go ahead with this resolution and implement the signs. This resolution asks us to implement the signs.
So the ordinance is about the sign language and the signs. That needs to be passed first before this resolution can pass, because we need the sign language first.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I'm fine with that. Councilmember Overstreet?
I just want to know if you all spoke with Councilmember Amos about that. Does he know that this paper will be waiting on the ordinance? Because I was there for public safety when we passed it to transportation. So I just want to make sure that the council member knows where you are with it.
And while you're thinking of how to answer that question, where's the ordinance that you speak of?
It's held a few minutes ago.
Oh, it's held in this
It's
committee?
number 8, yes.
Okay.
It was held.
So when will we be ready to move that forward?
As soon as the ordinance, I think the law department is, we have a meeting on Friday to discuss the language.
Okay, so next cycle, theoretically, we could move them forward together.
We should be able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Motion to hold by Dozier, second by Faroki. We'll touch base with Councilmember Amos, just so he's aware, but we would encourage you to do the same, just so he knows that these will happen in sequence, hopefully next cycle.
We'll do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. This item is held. We have one paper off held. It is item number 36, 22R4340, a resolution by Councilmember Mary Norwood to clarify the project scope of the 2015 T-Splash project, Moores Mill Road at West Wesley Road intersection improvements in order to make it a 3-lane intersection and not a 4-lane intersection, and for other purposes.
Ms. Norwood.
Yes, I wanted to move this forward today, but the department has requested that I have a meeting with them to go through the specifications, and we all get on the same page. So I would like to just hold it for one more cycle. And then next cycle, no matter what happens in the meeting, I will respectfully ask you to push it forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Norwood. Thank you for your patience in sitting through this entire meeting as well. And I know your constituent, Ms. Cheatham, was here. I didn't realize on a different item. I'm sorry she missed public comment. If she wants to reach out to us and share her thoughts on the paper, we're happy to entertain email, phone call, whatever it may be. I know it's a lot of work to come to City Hall for anyone who comes down here, so I appreciate it. So, thank you. No action is needed. It's already held, so it'll sit where it is, and we'll address it next cycle. So.
Mr. Chair, that concludes our legislative items for today.
Terrific. Well, we come to the end of our meeting at 2 hours, 8 minutes, Mr. Johnson. Thank you for everyone's time today. Any closing comments from the body? Thank you. And barring none, we are adjourned.